Everyone, it's me, Vinny. I'm here to give a quick vlog on the game that just happened between the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks at Barclays Center just a couple hours ago. As we all know, James Harden started tonight. He didn't look that good, especially coming back from injury. It looked like he was hurting. It looked like he still needed some time to rest, especially with Kyrie Irving out. It looked very, very bad for the Nets. It looked like their season was over, honestly. They were down by 20 points almost. And it looked like the Bucks were on their way to be one game away from winning this series. And it looked like that. I thought so too. But then came Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, as we know, future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. I would say the second best player of the entire 2010s decade. Coming off his Achilles injury in the 2019 finals, being out for all of last season. Had an all-star nod this year. He came out, obviously he was starting, and he put up one of the greatest games of his entire career. He is the first player in NBA history to have a game in the playoffs with over 45 points, over 15 rebounds, and 10 assists. And led his Nets to a comeback win with Jeff Green, his former Seattle Supersonics teammate, to go and defeat the Milwaukee Bucks. And now the Nets, after being up 2-0 and blowing their lead, they now have the lead and are one game away to advancing to the Eastern Conference Final, where they will face either the Atlanta Hawks or the Philadelphia 76ers. I gotta say, this is a very, very big deal for Kevin Durant. This is the kind of game when this is gonna be a game that when Kevin Durant goes in the Hall of Fame, this is gonna be one of the games that we think of his entire career. That is how impressive it was. No one has ever had a game like this. That is how dominant it was. And I gotta say, bravo to Kevin Durant. I know that a lot of people want to give crap to Milwaukee Bucks, and they should. Mike Budenholzer, he did not have a good job coaching today. Giannis did slip up sometimes. I mean, they were up a bit high. They were up by double digits multiple times throughout this game. They could not get it done. The Nets were behind for most of the game until near the very, very end. Durant had one of the greatest performances of his life. He had almost 50 points. He absolutely crushed the entire defense of the Bucks. And here we are. I mean, the Bucks can still tie this up. They can go to 3-3. I mean, Durant is a legend, but he can't have those performances every single day. You can't expect that, especially considering that Kyrie might be back. So now the Bucks are going to be in a very, very precarious position. They need to win Game 6, or else it is it for them. Charles Barkley before this game said that Game 5 was the most important game in the Bucks' history. I think there's a little bit of a bold statement right there, but still, it was a very important game for them. Considering that the mighty Brooklyn Nets, a team that most people saw going to the finals and winning it, potentially losing in the second round, that was huge news. And the Bucks, unfortunately, they still have that stigma. A team that always makes it to the playoffs, always has great regular season records, but some way, shape, or form, they just don't seem to get it done in the postseason. And this is a team that has Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the best players in the NBA, Mike Budenholzer, one of the best coaches in the NBA, and the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been one of the best teams in the NBA the last several years, and they've just had a reputation of just not getting it together, whether that be in 2017 where they lose to the Raptors after being up 2-0. Whether that's also last year against the Heat where they were the number 1 seed and lost 4-1, and that one game they won was an overtime game. I mean, the Bucks need to do better. They seriously need to do better. I mean, and now it's right back to now the Nets are, now the script flipped completely. Now, before people say, oh, the Nets are going to cruise their way through it, and now immediately 2 games later they said, oh, no, they're down, they're out, they're done for, they're scrubs. And now immediately, oh yeah, now that it's amazing how the narrative flips right that is with the. It's amazing how the flips with the flick of your finger with a snap immediately after all this stuff happens. That's what I think is so crazy about, like, NBA Twitter itself. Like, you have a great game, you're the GOAT, you're the greatest of all time, but if you don't have a great game, you're absolutely crap, you're shit, you're all this stuff. And I think that's just kind of crazy too. I did think that's just a little bit annoying because with LeBron James, everyone knows he's one of the greatest players ever, but for some reason people were putting too much of his legacy on the line. The fact that the Lakers lost to the Phoenix Suns. But to be fair, even with all their injuries, even going to the playoffs via the play-in round, they still were a team that most people saw going to the finals. At least it seemed to most people that they saw them going to the finals against the Nets and either losing or at least making it there. I didn't see that. I thought the Lakers would lose to the Western Conference Finals to the Jazz. But I got to say, with the Suns crushed, they swept the Nuggets. Yeah, Suns in 4. But I got to say, as for who else I think is going to happen for the NBA playoffs, I think the Nets are going to advance. I think they're going to, if they don't win Game 6, they're definitely going to win Game 7, especially if it's on their court. I believe that when it comes to the Hawks and the Sixers should probably win their next 2 games. As for Jazz Clippers, it's a series is all tied up. I would not be shocked if the Clippers advance to the conference finals. I can honestly see them beating the Suns. I really can. I think the Suns match up better against the Suns than the Suns match up better against the Jazz than they do the Clippers. So that's why I'm much more confident in the Clippers beating the Suns than the Jazz beating the Suns. But in terms of my finals prediction, I think we're gonna have. I still think the Jazz are gonna win against the Clippers. And at this point, I'm feeling that the Suns are going to beat them, and they're going to be against the finals against the Nets, and I feel like the Nets are probably going to still win in like 6 games. Though at the same time, I could be wrong. I also do like, surprises. I would love a Clippers Sixers matchup for Doc Rivers and Ty Lue. I think way too many people feel like I think they need to give Ty Lue more credit. I think he's a legitimately great coach. I mean, I understand you had LeBron James on your team. I understand you have Kawhi Leonard on your team. I understand you had Kyrie Irving and Paul George on your team. But at the same time, you also seem to win those games. How many times have we seen people with stars that haven't been able to get it over the hump? Tyronn Lue can say that he's gone to 3 NBA Finals and he's won a title after being down 3-1. That's not something you could shake lightly. And the fact he's also never lost a Game 7 as a head coach. You got to really think about that for a second. I understand you give credit to LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard, but yeah, obviously you need to. But you also need to give some credit to the coach as well. I think Tyronn Lue is a coach that doesn't get enough respect, and I think he needs to get a lot more credit. And even with down years, I still think Steve Kerr is a great head coach too. I really do. I legitimately do think Steve Kerr is a great head coach. You don't go to 5 straight NBA Finals for nothing. That does not happen overnight. I understand you had Steph Curry. I understand you had Draymond Green. I understand you had Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Durant. I'm aware of that, but you still also need to make it there. Simple as that. Anyway, guys, that's just my talk about the NBA. I know there are not a lot of people watching right now, but I hope you guys watch it as soon as this comes up. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified for new videos as soon as they come out. Make sure you like this video, and as always, stay true, guys, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.